Welcome, everybody, to another SuperSpeed Golf webinar. Thank you for spending some time with us here this afternoon. Joined today by my good friend, Dr. Tyler Standifird. And today we're going to talk all about the brand new Speed Sticks Pro, which we just kind of soft launched at the PGA show. And for those of you that are interested, it looks like the ship date on these is going to be March 17th. So we have some confirmations of when they're landing and when we're going to have them in the warehouse. So a couple weeks now until the official grand launch of the brand new Speed Sticks Pro. So Tyler, I'm curious. You were down at the PGA show with us. We had a lot of people come by and get to see and feel and try out the new Speed Sticks Pro. What was your sense of what people were feeling about these compared to obviously our previous version Speed Sticks that have been out for 10 years?
Yeah, again, it seems like the biggest takeaway message, common things people are saying, just they had some space they could actually swing them, and the thing I kept hearing was just how good they felt, how they felt, just the release of it felt a little bit better. Some of the things that were going on with the shaft, they said felt a little bit better. It was cool to put it in people's hands, right, Mike? We'd spent a lot of time trying to think about some of the improvements we should make. So to just get that, man, just feels better. Feels like a great club. That was I think a big home run.
Well, again, many of you may know, but we launched Super Speed Golf in the fall of 2014. So that's, over 10 years ago now. This is really the first time that we've made a major update to, that core overspeed training product in that amount of time. And, there were things over the years that we would think about that could be a little bit better about them. But I mean, honestly, the product works, right? So, we really wanted to wait until we had enough big changes to make all at once that we felt like there was really a justification for kind of launching that new version of the product. So I'm going to show you guys some photos, and we're going to get into this a little bit about, and then we're going to talk about some of the background science of kind of like why we did some of these things. And yeah, I mean, I think it'll make a lot of sense on that side. So, first things first, definitely we got these things in the hands of our good friend Podrick Harrington very early on in the process. And he's a big feel guy, Tyler. Like, I mean, if something feels awkward to him, like he's not going to use it, he's not going to like it. So that was kind of one of the areas where we really tried to get some feedback on the overall feel of those clubs. And we'll get into that in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But I mean, I think the first and maybe most obvious difference in the new Speed Sticks Pro is just that head shape, right? We had played around with different types of head shapes to kind of move away from that just cylindrical kind of simple design that we had originally. We moved around and we tried a whole bunch of different things here, really with the goal, really a couple goals in mind. Number one, we wanted to improve the aerodynamics. So we wanted the aerodynamics of that club head to essentially allow that club to move through the air a little bit faster. That wind resistance is kind of something that factors into that overall, equation of resistance that we're looking at in the equations for our training. So we really wanted to try to make something that was going to do that. Now, in that process, in the golf swing, air isn't hitting the club at the same direction all the time. And Tyler, from a physics standpoint, that makes this a little more complicated, doesn't it?
Yeah, anytime we get into multi dimensions, as you're trying to think about drag forces, those aerodynamics, both as they're different points of the swing at transition, what's happening, down the shaft through impact. It's not a real simple process to come up with maybe the best way to maximize that.
And if we look at where resistance matters the most in the swing, and just talking about this and looking at it compared to some of our grip strength research, when the player is trying to make the club change direction, whether that's at the start where it's starting from basically still and trying to make it start to move back, or at the point of transition where we're trying to make that club decelerate and then start accelerating in the opposite direction. Those are the 2 points that we sort of focused on from an aerodynamic standpoint. So there's two things there. When you have like that side baffle that's on the club head, that actually helps the thing reduce resistance a little bit when you're going side to side. So that's takeaway, and that's also down around impact and release point. The overall head shape of the club really is the one that helps the most during that transition period of the club. So you got most of your air is going up the shaft at that point, and then at that takeaway and impact, it's actually going side to side on the club head. It seems like a awful lot of work for a very little thing, but we do see that these can move a little bit faster with the same amount of force being applied. So, I mean, that was the goal, and keeping it simple. I also think they look really cool. I think having that little different head look, is something that kind of sets them apart from a lot of the other things that are out there. So, we hope that you very much like the head shape. Just know there is a lot of science that goes behind this, and then also some of those practical reasons that we did it as well. Now, another big point that I think is kind of critical here, we also changed that head shape because of one of the common things that would happen with our with the previous version over time, and that's you know we always recommend not hitting the ground with the club during the training. We don't club heads aren't necessarily made to hit the ground. We've made them, and we sort of over time we rounded that edge a little bit more so that there'd be less friction on the ground. But we really took that to the next level with the Speed Sticks Pro. Like if these hit the grass, I don't even feel a lot of give or resistance on that. The big one that we always saw before is we really tried to get people not to hit the ground if they were working on like those rubberized kind of gym floors that would grab a lot. So there is another practical piece there that makes a pretty big difference. And you probably see that in your lab all the time too. Like as much as we tell people don't hit the ground, don't hit the ground with the club, it's inevitable that eventually someone does. And we definitely wanted to make these a little bit more durable in that sense that if someone did hit the ground, there's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, I've actually got a spot in my lab. I was just in there today where there's some black duct tape over the top of that gym type floor where a chunk got taken out in one of my first studies. So
Yeah, so anyway, that's another little practical reason about the head shape. But yeah, it is significantly different. By the way, everybody, feel free to throw some questions in the Q&A panel. If you do have any questions on any of this today, we're happy to answer questions as long as you like afterwards. So the next major thing that we did had to do with the shafts. And we have two specific areas of the shaft that we looked at. And for those of you that have used our Super Speed golf training system in the past, you'll notice that the shafts in these are fairly stiff, fairly robust. And we did that on purpose because that promotes a little bit more aggressive loading of the club during transition, that it promotes just a more aggressive move overall, even if you're not playing that stiff of a shaft in your own driver. Well, one of the major improvements we wanted to make with the Speed Sticks Pro, we wanted to keep that kind of stiffer butt section of the shaft, which we call the load zone on these new version. Because again, we want to promote that more aggressive loading and transition of the club. However, I definitely wanted to see there be a little bit softer area around the tip, which we call our release zone or torque zone. And that slightly softer tip in the shaft is one of the ways that we were able to achieve that generally better feel in just kind of having some feedback around where that club's going to kick at the end, where it's going to release. And we did that primarily by just adjusting that portion of the shaft slightly. Tyler, what have you heard from players as they've been swinging these? What's the feedback you're getting?
yeah, and I think that would be the one I kind of led with this about kind of just some of the shaft profiling. It was all about kind of through the impact zone, right? Through that release at the end. They just talked about how it started to feel a little bit more natural, a little bit more similar to maybe kind of how their own driver might feel. Again, we've obviously done a lot of studies to show that the old system worked incredibly well. And even though it did have kind of that boardy shaft that Mike talks about, we saw a lot of great things happen mechanically pre-post training, but just again, getting something that might feel a little bit more that way. And again, we're always trying to push that envelope to try and find the most gains we can where it matters the most, which is when that driver is hitting a golf ball. And so, that's just something that feel that we feel like is really going to help just squeeze the most miles per hour we can out of that ball speed.
Yeah, and I definitely think this is something that you just have to feel this. Like it's not something I can really describe to you over a webinar. Like you got to get them and just give it a try. But every piece of feedback, especially from our high level players that we've gotten, is they really like the way it feels a little bit more like their driver. So yeah, excellent. Now the grips. Now, Tyler, I don't want to get off on a tangent. This is supposed to be a nice quick webinar this afternoon. We could probably talk about this for the next few hours. But there's a lot that went into the development of the grips that are on the new Speed Sticks Pro. First of all, we kind of threw out the whole mold on just how golf grips work, how they're manufactured, materials, all of that. We really just started from scratch based on a lot of the research that primarily Tyler's done in the last couple of years about grip strength, grip pressure, pressure points on the grip. All of these different factors went into making this new grip that's on the Speed Sticks Pro. And a little bit of a teaser. We put these in Padraig's hands, for the first time, and I mean, he was like falling in love with them. So we are planning to get these approved for play in with the USGA. That's coming soon. I would hope that that's going to be done sometime in the in like the April-May zone. So we will probably be able to sell these grips and actually put them on golf clubs too. So far, we're having a lot of requests for that. People that have picked these up really, really like them. So Tyler, first of all, let's talk a little bit about the grip strength, grip pressure research. Two main pieces here, right? How do we help people, activate more muscles in their hands, get their hands working more actively, as far as being able to pressure the grip? That's one piece that we want to do. And then how do we also then try to get them to put pressure on the grip in more optimal spots?
Yeah, and I think that first one, Mike, as I've worked with golfers, been able to collect some data with our friends from Sensor Edge, looking at kind of dynamically what these players are doing in a swing. It just kind of appeared over and over again that it's hard to find a golfer that doesn't benefit from a grip that's a little bit larger. And I think that maybe, and maybe even especially for these individuals with maybe some smaller hands that tend to be a little bit weaker, as we get a little bit older and we drop some grip strength, man, there's a way to really combat that. That's kind of that easy button, just becomes a little bit larger grip. And so that was kind of the first and foremost thing, was just let's just use that easy button, right, Mike? Let's give people a little bit of a larger grip on this to account for the countless numbers of amateur golfers using this that do lack grip strength, as a way to kind of work around that and help them gain the most speed possible.
Yeah, so one of the big things that happens when you use a slightly larger grip, whether it's on a training aid like what we're doing here, or if it's on your own club, a bigger grip causes a little bit more muscle activation in your fingers and hands and wrists, and so it gets more of the muscles in your hands working. The more muscles in your hands that are working, the better and more efficient you're going to be able to put pressure on the grip throughout your swing. Now, I am definitely on the side of the coin at this point, where if a player's got a grip strength deficiency, putting them in a slightly larger grip on their actual clubs that they play, I am all in for that. You should definitely give that a try and see how that works for you. Now, on the other side, there's players that have played the same size standard golf grip for their whole life. They really like doing it and they're not going to change. Fine. Give it a whirl on the training aid though, so we can get some of those benefits. And then when you go back to your actual club, where, because we're not really putting in the skill of face control or any of that stuff when you're doing super speed training, in your overspeed training session, get the physical activation benefits and then go back to your own grip and use that for all your drills when you're hitting balls. Really good way to do that. The other piece here is putting grip pressure on the grip in certain spots. And when you pick these grips up right away, you'll notice that there's two sections on them that are kind of soft and a little spongier, and there's two sections that are a little firmer. And really, those soft sections just subconsciously are going to make you want to kind of grip the club a little tighter in those spots. And those correspond with a lot of the research we've done on where the best players in the world put the most pressure on the grip. So anyway, lots of cool stuff in these grips. It seems just like a colorful, simple thing. But again, I want everybody to know today that there was an awful lot of time and effort spent making the decisions that we made on what's in these new speed sticks, and really trying to help you have the absolute most effective training tool on the market for this. Now, there is one other question that we get a lot, Tyler, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second when we talk about our like the travel stuff here. But what's really cool is that if you notice, the end of this club is hollow, so there's actually a weight plug in the end of every single one of our new Speed Sticks Pro. Now we call this our inertia matching system. So for years, we've had multiple different sets of our speed sticks. We've had the men's set or the ladies set or the senior set or all of these different sets. And the goal there was really to match the weight and the inertial properties of those clubs to the type of driver that that person was playing. So we always did our fitting systems primarily based on the weight of the driver that the player was playing. And then we would, also secondarily look at club speed and some other factors. But what's nice about the new Speed Sticks Pro is you don't really have to guess on which set you should buy. You're going to get a full weight kit with each one of these systems so that you can actually customize these clubs around any driver that's on the market. And I think that's a really, really critical part of this. And it actually gives you even more variance on this than you even had buying all of the different sets we had before. Because essentially our ladies and senior set would be like the Speed Sticks Pro with our lightest 20-gram weights in the ends. Our men's set from the old version would be like having the 40-gram weight plugs in. And now we actually have a weight set right in the middle with 30-gram plugs, which, I always found we had so many people that would end up right down the middle, right? Where the men's set may be just a little too heavy for what they're playing. They're playing like those 53 to 55-gram driver shafts in their driver, but like the ladies senior set was a little bit too light. So now we actually have an option there right down the middle, and that system can grow with you in the event that, let's say you gain 5-10 miles an hour swing speed and you get a little bit stronger and you move up to playing that 65-gram shaft instead of that 55-gram shaft. And that's becoming more effective after your club fitting. Now you don't have to get a different set of speed clubs to keep working. You just put in the different weights. Tyler and I went through lots of different iterations of this as far as what should the different weight plugs be? Should we put 10-gram weights out? Should we put 50-gram weights out? Tyler, what are your thoughts on what we came up with here in that final version?
Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite things about it. It's hard to pick one, right? Because obviously the grips I really enjoyed as well. But this was kind of a cool one just because of what you brought up, Mike, which was like, and you might think to yourself, well, does it really matter, right? Can we just push them as light as possible, as heavy as possible? And again, there is the sweet spot, right, where you need to kind of be a certain percentage away from that driver. You get too heavy, and while that can be good for some of the mechanical drills and things of that nature, it kind of ceases to be speed training. And so this is kind of a cool way to really zero in on that number. It's been fun for me to actually play around a little bit with this and pick some different drivers and different shaft weights and things like that, and see what pops out and start to see this just be a little more fine-tuned to that player. Again, not to mention our hope is always that player goes from 99 to 108, and maybe they get a little bit of a heavier shaft. And how cool is it now that they can just plug in that different weight plug and go right up to that next set?
Yeah. Again, and we've got so many fun things planned with this over the next, year and a half too. Like there will likely be protocols that we'll bring out where we actually will use the slightly heavier weights in the red club. And we have the option to do protocols with multiple different weight differentials in between. So there is a lot of testing going on in the background of some new protocols as well that this kind of opens up for us. But right now, this is definitely an advantage over the previous system for sure. Now, one of the biggest questions, or one of the most common questions that we always get is like, why did you release this? Why do you still have 3 clubs in the system? Well, I would say that we have done this type of testing, I don't know, Tyler, how many times over the last few years? And we did a lot of it even back in 2013, 14. But it always sounds like a good idea to only have one club that you're going to use. Like it just seems like a more elegant or efficient way to do it until you actually get into the training system and you have to go between these clubs really quickly in 2 or 3 swings. And all of a sudden now half of your training session ends up being like using a torque wrench, getting the weights in and out and switching the stuff around. So there's still 3 clubs in the SuperSpeed golf training system, and the Speed Sticks Pro, you know, I think make that even more efficient than before. But 3 clubs is always better than one, just from a standpoint of being able to get through the training quickly and not having to mess with stuff while you're in a training session. And I can tell you that we've had people that have tried other things that are out there and then come back and said, yeah, man, it's too much to have to keep switching these weights around all the time while I'm in the session. I want to be able to just pick up the next club and go. So that is a cool thing here. Now, we hear you though. Like we hear that, you know, some people travel with this stuff. Some people aren't able to bring all 3 clubs on a trip. We've made a situation where you can do it. So you can actually use just the blue club in the Speed Sticks Pro. You can take all the weights out, and it's essentially the same weight as the green club. You then put in whichever weight you might be using in your various systems. So if you're in a men's set, you put the 40-gram plug in, and you've got your blue club. And then we included this one extra larger weight that you can kind of see here. That larger weight weighs like 88 grams. And if you put that in the blue club, it essentially becomes your heavy club. So we call it like the travel system. So we've kind of gone best of both worlds here, if you will, where you can use that one blue club with those 2 weights. If you want to do that and have a single club system, that is possible. But I will say, just as a caveat, we always recommend using all 3 of them. It's just easier to do for the training. How have you heard that a lot from some of your players, Tyler?
Well, I'll say this, not just hearing it from a single player, but I also think as we have coaches who run speed clinics, right, which is a program that we've seen coaches use incredibly well. You know, it's really nice to just kind of have a, hey, you pick up this club and swing it. You switch this one to that person, you take the next one. You can really move a lot of people through this training with one set. I actually had 3 guys come in once simultaneously in one of my studies, and I loved that with the 3 of them, I could literally get them going on either club. I moved all 3 of them through the overspeed training in, 15 minutes without any problems whatsoever. And so there's just a lot of convenience that you're bringing up that I've heard and have utilized in my own training as well.
All right. It wouldn't be a webinar with SuperSpeed now if we didn't talk a little bit about the app. But I want to show everybody something really cool that we added to the app, specifically about the Speed Sticks Pro. First of all, a little question that we get. If you own the Speed Sticks Pro and you want to use those, you do need to go into player info and then go down to the bottom and make sure that, you've selected all of the equipment that you have. And if you have the Speed Sticks Pro, make sure that that's on there, and that one will then default into your sessions. Now, from the home screen, you can either hit this Start a Session button, or you can go to Training and go to Assessments. Either way works. But one of the things that we have that's really cool is we have an assessment called our Speed Sticks Pro Assessment. So what you're going to need with this, and it'll show you some videos and things, but it's just going to answer a couple questions about what driver you're currently playing. So if you go in here and you select the driver that you're playing, let's say I'm playing a TaylorMade driver, and my grip is a mid-size golf grip. And then I'm going to say, what kind of shaft do I play? I'm going to say I play a stiff shaft, flex shaft. And if you know the basic shaft weight profile of your driver shaft, mine happens to be a 63-gram shaft, so I would push that 61 to 70. It's going to tell me that I need to use the 40-gram weights in my Speed Sticks Pro set. And it'll show you where those fall in the little kit that comes with it and how to do it. This is a very, very cool feature that we added to the app, specifically so that it's really easy for you to set up and find the right setup for your Speed Sticks Pro without really having to go through any major effort to do it. Just select that information and boom, you're going to have what you need. All right, Tyler, I think we've got a few questions here.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get into some of these.
Yeah, let's dive in.
All right, so first one here, we've got you just bought the other set and you're looking to trade it in. we don't have a specific trade-in program launched yet. We will have a trade-in program coming very soon that we're working with through a couple different military veteran organizations, where we're likely going to be donating some of those old sets and giving you a slight credit on buying the Speed Sticks Pro. So we're hoping to launch that here in the next month or so, but stay tuned on that one. We're trying to do some cool stuff here and give some stuff back. But yeah, that's coming very soon. Um, Next, are you doing any changes to the Pee-wee and Junior Super Speed Sticks? So the Pee-wee and All-Star sets are not changing. I mean, we think those are really good the way they are. The grips on those are already kind of ideal for kids' hands. The shafts are specific for kids. We didn't really see a need to do a lot of the adjustable weight pieces with those, and those heads are already a lot smaller. So no, those won't be changing. There is talk about doing a junior length version of the Speed Sticks Pro. That probably won't launch right away, but we are looking into doing that where we would have a set of Speed Sticks Pro that would be slightly shorter than the current adult length version. So those are in the works. All right, Wayne's got two of them here, Tyler. What do you think? I was at the PGA show and purchased the new sticks and a launch monitor. I'm already making progress. Grats, Wayne. Good job on that. My question is, would there ever be a situation where you would use a different weight on the green club versus the blue versus the red? I have mine all set up the same weight. So that's what I was talking about. We're doing a lot of research on the back end right now on some potentially additional advanced protocols where we may change around some of those a little bit. There are very rare circumstances where it'll be more ideal to have like a 30-gram weight in the green and a 20-gram in the blue and a 30-gram in the red, that kind of thing. Just if you're very much on the borderline of some of the driver weights that are out there, all of that's in that app assessment. So if it tells you to use 40s based on your driver, then use 40s. But yes, I'm definitely on the path in the future of us creating some advanced stuff where we may change that around just a little bit. Tyler, what are your thoughts there? I know you're kind of in the mix of that too.
Yeah, I liked what you said about the idea of like fine tuning some of those things with those individuals. This is where I'm really excited about what the app's going to allow us to do, because as we start gathering data on this, and because we're all, when we get those emails from people that say, hey man, I know this is working for a lot of other people. We've seen it work with a lot of other people. This actually allows us to dive in and say, the app will actually spit out how you're swinging the green club, blue club, red club relative to your driver. So I also think there's an opportunity there where we might see some things appear there where we can now give some recommendations of, you know what, let's swap that one out, change it here, and then start seeing those things go and really help you fine tune those games.
That's definitely one that's coming. So like a player that has like a strength deficiency, that's having a hard time getting the red club, significantly faster than their driver speed during a training session. That could be a player that, number one, we're going to be recommending squeeze protocols and then maybe even some physical fitness protocols on the strength side. But we may be a little more efficient if we lower that weight of the red club down from a 40 maybe to a 30. That could be a definite situation. Same thing, kind of goes on the other end of the spectrum. Sometimes the people that have bigger mechanical issues that like can't get the green club to go fast enough, sometimes actually working with the slightly heavier weights in those relative can be a little more effective. So yes, there's definitely stuff to come with that. Lots of exciting different pieces we can look at. All right, from Tom here. Will a thicker grip promote a fade? Good question. So we've done a lot of testing on this, and we've also seen a lot of testing on this from a number of different outlets. I know my friend up at the Golf Lab's done a lot of this as well. The traditional thought is that if I have a bigger grip, it's going to be harder to release the club head. It's going to promote more of a fade. I would say that general scientific research does not support that conclusion across the board. I think that for some players, a bigger grip will tend to produce a little bit more of an open face throughout the swing. I think for other players, it doesn't. So it's not a completely across the spectrum kind of tendency, is the way I would put it. Um, Having a bigger grip on a training aid does make you work a little bit harder to actively close the face during transition, actively close the face, during the parts of the downswing. So that I think is definitely a piece. So that's kind of why I think that kind of general terminology, general trend of that came out over the years. But that doesn't really work. And every player is different in that regard, and some don't have any trouble with that at all. So um, I wouldn't say that. I think you got to test it. I can say definitively that having a bigger grip allows people to more efficiently pressure the grip during the swing most of the time. Tyler, you've probably seen that more than anything else,
Yeah,
right?
that's where I was going to go to, is just some of these pressure profiling dynamically through the grip. And again, like you said, some of the good conversations I had with the guys up at the golf lab in Canada, same kind of thing, right? Where they just see over and over again that people tend to be fit in larger grips than what they have, because it creates this better pressure trace between the hands and the club through the swing. So yeah, I would concur with that.
Yep. Don's telling us he agrees with us on the larger grips, Tyler, coming from the sports med world and, using the good old jammer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know you've got one there. I've got one in my staff bag out in
No,
the front.
I wanted to show, this is like, people now know I do grip stuff, right? So this was I'm sure they won't mind me sharing it, but this is a kind of a little grip one I got from there that kind of places some things a little bit differently. I actually have a meeting with some researchers in the sports med world tomorrow that I'm excited to kind of dive into some more of this, right? We got to get better at measuring this accurately, consistently, and anyway, it's fun.
Yeah, so at our academies, when we tested grip strength, we always used the jammer one and we always put it on the smallest setting possible that was the closest to a golf grip. And then we would also test them with the slightly larger settings. And yeah, I mean, if we saw somebody with a huge deficiency when it was on the small setting and they did way better I mean, we'd have people that would have twice as much grip strength when you put it even just a slightly bit bigger. I mean, there's definitely somebody I would say we need to try some larger grips. It's just, I mean, again, this sometimes things are too logical, right? All right, here comes a question from Mark. What is your recommendation with ladies using the set with difference in length of the shaft? Should they move to a new Speed Sticks Pro? Different length of the shaft. So I would say that as long as they're playing a driver above like 43 and a half, 44 inches, the 45-inch version of our clubs is going to be perfectly fine for them. When they start to get below that, then I think we could definitely start to think about maybe either cutting down the set a little bit to match their driver length, which is perfectly possible, or going a little shorter. We've found that you want your speed training to work with about the same length club as you're swinging. Give or take an inch or two is not going to be a major difference. But when you start using like a hybrid length, speed training tool versus your driver length tool, the results that we've seen using that are not nearly as good as what you get when you match that length closer. Tyler, you want to talk more about that? You did a lot of that research.
Yeah, and I would say, just the one study I looked at was mainly the mechanical differences between something that's a hybrid length versus a driver length, and those mechanical pieces start to change. There's a lot of good research out there to show differences in swinging a 7-iron versus a driver and hybrid versus a driver. So I'm not the only one to really show that, which is why we tend to push close to the driver, because that's the club that we're really trying to maximize speed on every swing, versus
Yeah.
irons where it becomes more about distance control and those things, which is why we've kind of gravitated towards that length of the driver.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Can you change my old set head to the new set while I keep my set? No, we can't, unfortunately. It would be an awful lot to have to reshaft those. Um, Really, there's not an easy way to do that. You'd have to basically pull the heads off of your current one, which we use some pretty strong epoxy on those, so it would be pretty difficult to pull those off in the first place. And then secondly, we're not really going to be selling just the heads on the new ones. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be possible. You can, however, if you want to change the grips on the new version, they come off just like any other golf grip. So you could do that and adjust them on this. All right, question here might be one of my old students, Tyler, from back in Chicago. I'm not sure. It's the same name, but basically wondering if the app is included, if there's a monthly fee. So the new Speed Sticks Pro are going to retail at $199. That is going to come with a free trial of the premium version of the SuperSpeed app. There will be a monthly fee of $9.99 on the app after that trial is over. Now, that being said, the free version of the app is also available. So you can always track your speeds. You can always go in and do an awful lot of stuff in the app for absolutely free. The premium version gets into having a lot of, it has the physical assessment, a lot of the different mechanics protocols, a lot of the more advanced protocols that are in there. So you're welcome to use the app for free forever. Please do. If you want to subscribe to the premium, we feel like we've put a lot of work into that. And, for what you're getting for $9.99 a month in that, you're basically getting customized programming for speed training, mechanics, fitness, all kinds of different stuff in that app, and a lot of advanced analytics. We very much hope that you feel that $9.99 fee is justified once you see how much cool stuff that app does for that, fairly nominal fee. Okay. For speed assessment, where to enter the club you use. When you do a speed assessment, it's going to ask you to use a driver and a 7-iron. So when you're collecting that data, it's going to ask you for driver first and then 7-iron. So just I'm not exactly sure what you mean as far as where to enter the club you use.
Yeah,
Um,
if you go into the speed assessment, it should prompt you through that pretty nicely. It doesn't obviously give the option for like a specific maybe type of driver, like what we would see in the assessment we did today for the what
Yeah,
weight you put in for the Speed
maybe
Sticks
you're
Pro.
thinking about the Speed Sticks Pro
Yeah.
assessment. So make sure the speed assessment is like your baseline and checkpoint
Mhm.
data that we're getting throughout your training. The Speed Sticks Pro assessment is the one that'll tell you which weights to use in the Speed Sticks Pro. So make sure that we're on the right one there. Um, do you have a physical store in Philadelphia? We do not. We will have some of this product in Golf Galaxy stores all over the place in the next month or so. So that would be very good. Still located in the Chicago area. We are not. I live in Denver now. Tyler is out in Utah.
Robert
Um,
is your old student. He chimed in there at the bottom. He was an old student of yours and loves the product. So
yeah, well, it's great to see you. It's been a blast from the past there back at Callus Golf Performance. Um, yeah, fantastic. I'm glad to hear that you're having success and you're still going at it. Pretty hard here. That's really exciting. Um, we actually still ship all of our product is still warehoused in DeKalb, Illinois, so about an hour, a little over an hour west of Chicago. So a lot of our stuff is still in Illinois. All right, here's another one. With the larger grips in the Pro set, will the Super Speed squeeze still fit on the grips or is not recommended? It will. Yeah, you can certainly still get the Super Speed squeeze around the Speed Sticks Pro. We use those both on the Speed Sticks. We also just have players put that on like a mid iron in their set is also just as effective. But yes, they will still fit. Oh boy, non-dominant training is still important for speed creation. Absolutely, sir. We're never going to create a protocol for overspeed training that doesn't include non-dominant swings. It's kind of an interesting point here. We've been doing a lot in baseball recently. We launched our Velo Sports baseball products in the last year. Baseball does not seem to have this concern. Like baseball players get it, man. They do everything both sides of the body, which is kind of common in most sports. I don't know why golf has an issue with it, but yeah, non-dominant training is here to stay.
well, and I'll just add again, most of the golfers that we're working with, when they're doing their physical training, they don't really have the capacity to do a lot of high speed, high force output training from a rotational standpoint, right? This might be some of the only non-dominant side rotational work they'll ever do. And when you think about the hundreds, if not thousands, of swings you're going to make from the one side, this ends up being an important piece of the puzzle. Not just for speed generation, but also I think just for general health of the spine and core in the long run.
It also is great data. So in your app now, you will see data points in there under overspeed training that kind of show your relative speed, non-dominant to dominant. And, we definitely have metrics on that at this point. A lot of our top players in the world, top speed, long drive players, high speed players in general are almost within a mile an hour of the same speed. Some get a little above, some stay a little bit below, but we use that to track also kind of how much more ceiling there is in some ways for players. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really important stuff. All right, everybody. We had one more question come in. It was just a thank you for having the product. Rick, thank you. I'm glad that they're helping you and your students. Um, Everybody, we really appreciate you spending some time with us here this afternoon. That's going to conclude another webinar. These will be available on our YouTube channel, and I think you'll get a link to this afterwards too. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. Remember, you still have a little bit of time to pre-order some of the inventory out of this first shipment of SpeedSticks Pro. We do anticipate that they are going to go relatively quickly. So get those pre-orders in. They will ship in the order they are received. And that ship date, like I said, is right there in the middle of March. So we're really excited to start getting these out in the marketplace. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it. And we will see you next time.